Perfect. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ailis O'Carroll, the Community Manager at eLife. And I'd love to welcome you today to hear this talk on eLife's new model that aims to transform research communication through preprint review. And I think what's really exciting is that this hinges so nicely on the annual meeting's themes of transformation, trust, and transparency. So before we delve in, I'd just like to give a bit of a background on eLife. So eLife was established in 2011 as an independent nonprofit led by scientists that aims to reform research communication. So we work to promote a research culture that values openness, integrity, and inclusion. And with the support of our funders, they give us the support and the funding to enable us to take risks. And this enables us then to develop open source systems that support the review, curation, and communication of research literature. Our ultimate aim is to accelerate research through publishing, technology, and research culture reform. And as the community manager at eLife, I'm extremely passionate about this last topic of research culture reform as well, where we work alongside a lot of our global community, particularly our early career researchers across the globe. We have 128 ambassadors from about 55 different countries. And they go out and they chat to their community, they chat to the researchers, hearing the barriers they face and what they want from the publishing landscape. So what they want and what they've wanted for a long amount of time is change in the way that research is communicated. This now, for what seems to be the first time, the movement for change is growing larger and larger. We hear this from the research organizations across the globe, Latin America, Africa, Asia, the European Commission, and as you all know, the White House now has declared 2023 the Federal Year of Open Science. So the four aims of the Year of Open Science that you can see here align very nicely with eLife's mission. So the aims state that they want to establish strategic approaches for advancing open science. There's an aim to promote equitable participation in open science going forward. And a big push is now on recognizing and rewarding open science practices. A part that I'm extremely passionate about is the engaging with the underrepresented communities so that we can advance open science and research going forward. For open science to work, one of the first steps is our preprints. And what we've seen through the pandemic, through COVID-19, how rapid data sharing was needed. This led to the rise of preprints, not only in number, but also in acceptance. So before we go forward, what I want to do, which I'm sure all of you know, is just uncouple what preprints are and what preprints are not. So preprints are open and immediately available. They're also controlled by the authors. But what we can say that preprints are not, they're not peer reviewed, so we cannot consider them completely trustworthy. And preprints are also not curated, so they're not easily findable and accessible by the research community. So in a world where the internet, social media, and preprints are the norm, at eLife, we decided to take a step back and see what is our role going forward. And what we were thinking with our research community, we got together and we thought, if we were to redesign the model, the publishing model that we use, what would be the criteria for a better model? And what we came up with are the 6 criteria that you can see here. We wanted to create a model for publishing that was more transparent, that gave more control to the authors or gave the control back to the authors as much as possible, that it was the best value that we could give, that it would make research communication faster, that it would ultimately be good for science, but in doing so, that it would also be good for scientists. So a lot to try and push forward into a new model. And this led to our current iteration of our eLife publishing model. We announced this in October 2022 and launched it at the end of January this year. So I can go through this in a bit of detail and I can answer any questions afterwards. So a researcher, if they want to submit, they have to make their research available as a preprint. They then submit that preprint to us. Then there's a decision to review. This takes 7 days to give back to the authors. The next part would be the part of the process that I've always been very passionate about, is the consultative and collaborative peer review that happens between the editors and the reviewers. They write the review. They also write an eLife assessment that I'll go into detail on the next slide. And they give private recommendations to the authors as well. The authors then have a couple of weeks to respond to these reviews. And then at this stage, this is where our model shifts from what it was previously. So the model now focuses on having an output of a reviewed preprint. This includes the preprint, it includes the reviews, it includes the eLife assessment, the responses from the authors, and this is all made available as a reviewed preprint on our website. It gets a DOI and an eLife citation. It's then at this stage that the author can choose whether they want to send to another journal, whether they want to revise the paper and resubmit it into the process, or whether they want to choose that this is the version of records they want going forward. This is then typeset and indexed. So this would be equivalent to, in our old model, the traditional paper. So how does this look? You can see here that this is our reviewed preprint that is up on our website as we speak. There is on the right-hand side, the left-hand side, there's the indication that the work was made available as a preprint and reviewed by eLife. Underneath this, you then have the article review history. And then not on the initial page, but on a tab behind, you can see the peer reviews. They're publicly available and the author's responses will be included here as well. And then what you can see is a new part of the model where we have the eLife assessment just sitting underneath the abstract. So the eLife assessment communicates what the editors and the reviewers' assessment of the paper is. It uses common vocabulary, and this common vocabulary is used to communicate to both scientists and those who are not heavily involved in the discipline, the impact and quality of the science. So looking in a bit more detail at the common assessment vocabulary, what you can see here is the language and the vocabulary that we've selected. And this has been done with quite a lot of research, speaking to the reviewers, speaking to the editors, from the past, I think, 2,000 preprints that have been reviewed over the past year. So it focuses on two main parts, on the significance of findings of the research and obviously of the strength of evidence as well. The reviewers and editors work together to write this, and they really focus in on these significance of findings, the strength of evidence, and this enables them to have a clear and concise, structured way of giving their assessment on why the paper has impact and has value. So taking a step back, if we look at what our new model enables, so it does enable research to be communicated faster. Obviously, the authors can post their preprints, so the preprints are posted immediately. Then it takes us 1 to 3 months to get the reviewed preprints up and published on our website. We are working actually at the moment to get it down to 40 days, and that's our aim now to have the preprints reviewed and up online at that stage. Hopefully it's good for science. We're not just doing a binary decision now of where we would usually have written published by eLife. We're having these detailed eLife assessments that will give hopefully the information for the scientists in the field who are reading, but also those on the career development panels, funding grant agencies to see the impact of this research. We're hoping that the transparency increases scrutiny across the research community, leading to hopefully more responsible research practices. So ultimately what we really want is that this will accelerate scientific discovery. Making it good for scientists is obviously a massive aim for us at eLife, as our nonprofit is led by scientists. So we want to value the time of both the authors and the reviewers. With the authors sending in their papers, what they really want is that their research is communicated as fast as possible. And for the reviewers who are taking the time to do the reviews, instead of hiding them away, instead of them not being used if the paper is rejected, we wanted to bypass this. And in our model, we hope we are valuing their time. We also have created visible quality indicators now through using the eLife assessment, as opposed to just focusing on the title of the journal or the impact factor to do so. In making this model, we've also worked alongside the funders to ensure that the new model aligns with the funder requirements. And obviously this model is quite transparent. The assessment criteria that the editors usually would keep to themselves on why the paper was, in what reasons they gave for the reviews and why it was assessed. This is now visible and accessible for everyone to see and read. The peer reviews are published, so they're available. So are the authors' comments and responses. So again, giving that voice back to the authors to give their voice on what they feel the response is to the reviews, and going forward on revisions of the paper that they can continue to do so. One issue that has always been the case with preprints has been that the versions aren't tracked, that they've just been scattered throughout the various servers and online. And what our new model is doing is that we give a parent DOI at the start. So that DOI then goes alongside with the paper from the preprint submission right through to the various preprint iterations until the final version of record is published. We wanted to give back as much control to the authors. So the authors now obviously choose to publish as a preprint at the very start. They choose how to respond to reviews. The authors then can choose when to make amendments and if they want to make amendments. And ultimately, the final decision is with the authors when they decide on which version of record will be the one that is sent for indexing, typeset, metadata pulled in, and they have the decision on when that happens. We were able to reduce our publishing fee from 3,000 down to 2,000 after assessing the new model. Obviously, as with our old model, full fee waivers are available. So if any researchers for any reason cannot afford the publishing fee, they can apply for this full waiver, and obviously each case is assessed independently, each one. So we hope that this will give significant savings in academic time. We're looking into centralized APC deals and other deals that will hopefully help researchers just focus on their content and not be spending so much time on the process of publishing. So yeah, we announced our new model in October 2022 with a lot of vibrant discussion, as there should be. And one unifying theme throughout all of the discussion across social media, in articles, has been that everyone is very intrigued to see how it goes. How will this play out? You know, what are the stats? And what I can tell you is how it's going so far. We have had obviously a lot of interest, a lot of articles, commentary on the support within eLife, the support outside of eLife. We have shifted and dedicated a whole new section on our website to our reviewed preprints. And what's exciting is that within 2 months of the new model, we were able to announce that we had reached 1,000 submissions to the new model. A further update, 3 months in, so this is just 3 months of data. So from the end of January until the end of April, I'm able to give you some figures. I have updated figures here as well as of last week. So within the first 3 months, we had 1,429 submissions. As of last week, we've had, I think, just under 1,800 new submissions to the new model. There has been 337, I think now it's at around 430, the number of papers sent for review. It takes about 7 days for the paper after submission to be invited for review. This hasn't changed from our old model. Here it says there's been 51 published reviewed preprints. We currently, I think, have about 113 reviewed preprints that have been published. And then the number for 27% is the proportion sent for review. At the moment, it's at about 33%. So what does all this mean? What do these numbers mean? What's really interesting for us and very exciting for us is that this number hasn't really changed from our old model. So what's really exciting is that there is a want from the research community to publish through this new model. Having reviewed preprints, having their reviews online doesn't seem to be deterring our research community and our audience. This is only 3 months of data, so we cannot really extrapolate from it. What will be really exciting is at the end of summer, there'll be a 6-month review done. This will have a lot more data, and we'll really look forward to sharing it with you all. So what I have gone into has been what preprints are not. They are not peer reviewed. So our aim at eLife is just to push forward the peer reviewing of papers, to give value to preprints. The other aspect is that preprints aren't curated. So at eLife, we sat down and we discussed what we wanted to do was to unlock the full potential of preprints across the landscape, just like not just keeping it within eLife's walls. And what ended up happening was there is a team now within eLife who have developed Society. So Society is a platform that aggregates reviewed preprints from across the web. Individual researchers and groups can curate papers that are of interest to their communities. They can organize these as lists, share them with their peers, and we're really hoping that this will help researchers, across the world to navigate the growing preprint landscape. And I'd invite you to pop on to society.org and to see what you find there. We're only in the early days of developing it, so it'll be really interesting to hear your feedback as well. So yeah, early days for a new model as well. What I can tell you is the next steps that we'll be doing pushing forward. In our 6-month review at the end of summer, we will have a lot more data analysis on the authors. We'll have a lot more demographic data that we can share with you all, subject submission, focusing on geographical location, gender, career stage, hopefully. And what we want to do is just to continue to monitor what we are doing at the moment, to refine, adapt, and improve the editorial process to make it as optimal for everyone as possible. And we have eLife staff like myself, we have our editors, we also have a big proportion of our research community, particularly our early career researchers, who I work quite heavily with. So they are our ambassadors, the 128 of them from over 50 countries who, alongside our early career advisory group, are going and speaking with their community. They're giving talks on open science, on reviewing, on preprinting. I'm really trying to understand how it can resonate, how it can work for each of the different communities, how it will work with our funding agencies, the research institutions, organizations, career developments. There are so many different facets of this. And I think we can't be clear enough that one change in the entire system isn't going to shift everything. We really need to understand how we can make it work for as many people as possible. But it's exciting days. There's a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of positivity, particularly among our early career researchers. So yeah, I guess that what I can say is that this feels like just the beginning for us. The research community ultimately will dictate what way they want the publishing landscape to go. They will speak through submissions to our process. And what I think is really exciting is the acceptance so far that has happened with our submission model so far. And I think it's really exciting that we would love to work with you all, to hear what you think about the new model, to see if you want to do a flavor of it, experiment with it. And I'd be more than happy to chat with any of you after this on that topic. So yeah, I just want to thank you all and invite any questions. Yes, go ahead.
I'm a physicist.
Yes.
We started this preprint business in early 90s.
Yes.
And live there happily, but I should say that you took it to completely new level. Just amazing.
Okay, great to hear.
Having said that, I have a question.
Yes.
How do you see the difference between reviewed preprints of eLife and journal publication?
Mm-hmm.
Where is the boundaries?
Yeah. So with the reviewed preprint, you get a DOI, you have an eLife citation, so you can use that going forward. The only difference is until you decide it's the version of record, it is not sent for indexing. So without indexing, we do all the typesetting, we do all of the other things that are needed, but without the indexing, it won't be pulled onto PubMed, it won't be pulled onto the Web of Science and all of that. So what we're doing is enabling the research to be communicated for everything to progress on faster, but ultimately we'd need the researcher to say that this is the version of record, so we can pull it in like a traditional paper would be pulled in.
Which is to say your journal only better because author have more control over the
That would be lovely to say.
But if I submit to a journal paper and it's accepted and published,
yes,
there is no way I'm not legally allowed to submit to another journal. In case of eLife, so I understand I can have a version of record on eLife and then go and submit it to seven.
So you can with the reviewed preprint, you can submit that to any other journal that you like. But when it's a version of record, that is considered a paper in the old traditional sense. So at that version of record stage, you can't submit it to another journal.
Okay, so if I don't make a version of record at eLife,
Yeah, you can do whatever you wish. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. Yes, I think there's a mic up there. Yeah.
Kia ora, Adam from Coco. Very nice to meet you. We haven't met, but we work a lot with eLife. But what I'm interested in is how's the response from the preprint servers been to this? Because they're an important part of the ecosystem, I think, and becoming increasingly important centers of gravity. So just wondering if you could explain how they've reacted and also what ongoing role you see them playing as you go forward.
Yeah. So,
I'll just sit back.
yeah, no worries. Take your time. It's a long walk up. Yeah, so, well, we work alongside bioarchives, medRxiv. It's been really, really positive, the feedback that we've received from them. They want a flavor of this model to push forward across the publishing landscape. So they're happy to hear from us what way would work best. I think we've indexing collaborations going forward too. You know, a lot of Clarivate and the various different indexers are looking at how this can work too. So I think the industry understands that there's a need for this, and everyone is just interested to see how it can, how it will play out. But hearing from us what way can make it as smooth as possible. So I can actually reach out to you afterwards, you know, and get you more information on the various different servers. But at the moment, it seems very positive. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of this, by the way. Related question, thinking about when a researcher posts their preprint, say to bioarchive, it gets posted, it gets a DOI, and then they submit to eLife, they go through the various versions and they say this is the version of record and they get a final DOI. When it's on bioarchive, if I find the preprint there, is there a way for a reader to know that it's been reviewed at eLife? Like how do you speak back to, how does the eLife and the archives, how do they speak to each other, like on a metadata level?
Yeah. So we're working a lot with them to make sure that this, you know, it works optimally. At the moment, it definitely does say that it's published at eLife, and there's a nice feedback loop there. The interesting thing is that from working alongside Crossref, you know, there's a lot of metadata there, and I think it is very early days on what way this will be used optimally. I can again give you more information. Our head of technology will have, you know, a million things to say about this, but at the moment it seems to be that the loops are working, that you can see that it's published at eLife, you can see exactly what record, particularly on the eLife website, the newest record will come in on top, but you can see the other records if you look for them too. And I think that hopefully this will really help, because currently you could never tell which version of record, you know, the preprint was, and some people will get lost in that. So it does seem that the various different iterations are working well together, but I would love to give you more information with our head of technology, who will be happy to give you more. Hi, yes.
Oh, and of course, I'm short. I'm interested, since the stats from the old model to the new model were very similar in terms of uptake and numbers of submissions and everything. Are you seeing much of a difference in, I guess, in author behavior at that decision point? You know, are there numbers for how many go on to revise and go back in and do version of record at eLife, similar to what would have happened, you know, basically following the old model under the new flow? Or, you know, how are there, do you have numbers yet on how many authors are then taking that reviewed paper, the reviewed preprint, and moving to a different journal?
Yeah, I wish I had loads of data. It's such early days. The exciting thing at the moment is we have 3 reviewed preprints. I keep hitting this. 3 reviewed preprints that are being re-reviewed. So basically they have gone through the process. They've received reviews. They've given, you know, a response back. And now they're working on their amendments, they've sent them through, and 3 of them are now re-going through that process. And that's all included in the publication fee as well. So, what you've paid for is that you can resubmit in and go through the review process again. So hopefully we'll have a few versions of record to shout about in the next few weeks. And then it will be really interesting at the end of summer to have more data on the way the different authors have gone. One big area that we really want to focus on is a lot of our authors are from the US, they are from Europe. So a big push now will be to see, how can we make it that more authors from across the globe are submitting, and how do we make that more accessible for them? Are there any other questions? Comments? Yes?
Where do you get your viewers? You have quite a lot of submissions.
Where do we get our viewers?
Yes.
I don't have the exact data on that, but I can definitely get it for you.
Just a little bit ahead.
Yes.
What is your pool of viewers? Is it some 30 pounds?
Oh, the pool of reviewers. Sorry, I think you said the viewers. I was going to say I'd love to know who is viewing them. Yeah, no, the reviewers. We have our senior editors, obviously, and then we have our board of I can't say reviewing today. Board of reviewing editors, and that is around 700. So we have about 700 reviewing editors, and then they reach out to further reviewers as well. We're constantly trying to expand that pool, particularly with our early career reviewers. That's an area that we're really focusing on, and we're going to have an open application process for early career researchers to get involved, hopefully to work alongside more senior reviewing editors. We did a call for reviewers and reviewing editors in Latin America because we had such small numbers there. We, I think, only had about 5 reviewing editors from Africa as of the start of this year. So it's an area we're focusing on at the moment. There's an open call there. So we're hoping to expand our reviewing editors, but not only in number, but in diversity. So yeah, they're the numbers we have so far.
So you said that researchers could then go on to submit to another journal if they want to go through that traditional publishing process. Like, what kind of response have you gotten from other journals? Have any authors done that? And do you know their experience?
Yeah, so unfortunately, again, early days, so we haven't had that happen yet. It will be really interesting to hear what way the research community want to go. And there are a lot of journals who are very interested in the model, and they're interested in potentially just flavors of the model. So they might take on that if we had done the reviews, that then they wouldn't send it for a review, or they just do an extra step on top of that before going towards submission. What we would love is that this was a part of an ecosystem. So, hopefully there'd be a lot of different ways of reviewing papers, and this would all lead to ultimately the paper being reviewed and scrutinized to the optimal effect. But at the moment, we don't have the data, I'm afraid. I think if that's all, I'd just like to thank you all again for listening and looking forward to chatting to you.